Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Meet the Author and Rolling Out. I'm your host, Vera, and joining me today is the author of the coolest spy thriller ever, Spy Notes, the brilliant Judy Hutson. Hi, Judy. So nice to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tell me about your journey. What inspired you to write Spy Notes, and how did your background influence the story?
Well, what inspired me was Josephine Baker. She was an iconic songstress, actress in the 1920s and 30s that just took over Paris. And
Mm.
she was one of the biggest African American actresses, singers at that time, world renowned. So during World War II, she was working with the French resistance. And while she was on tour, she would get information from the for the French resistance from the Germans. She would find out that information and sneak it in between her music notes. And that's how she would go from place to place and then pass them on to the French resistance. In fact, she was such a critical point of her for doing that during the war that she was buried. She was given a state funeral when she died by the French. And she is now buried in Paris. They interred her body, and she's buried along with, she's only the African American woman who is buried in the same place that some of the great French, people of that time. So what inspired me was that I realized, yes, when you're working with entertainers, because I was a music publicist for many years, and I worked with people like Keith Sweat, Jill Scott, Bobby Brown, and you have access to different levels of society because, high society, rich people, they all want to be around stars. So I was thinking,
Mm.
music publicist would make a great spy because she would be able to infiltrate these places that, the CIA and the FBI would not be able to get into that easily.
Yeah, yes. Okay, let's talk about Johnny Harrington. How did you develop a character, and did you draw from any of your real life experiences?
Well, yeah, I mean, Johnny Harrington, I say my book is also a love letter to publicists because publicists are some of the hardest people working behind the scenes that do not get
Yeah,
credit. So, yeah, she's definitely has, some of the things that I have gone through, some of the experiences, but not just me, but a lot of different publicists that we've, told war stories about. And I use that to help to form her character. And what a publicist has to do is a lot of times what a spy has to do. She has to think quickly. She has to, make sure that things are that turn out correctly. So I did
yeah.
use.
Okay. So you've worked closely with legends like Jill Scott, Bobby Brown, like you said, and you were part of the Fresh Fest tour. How did the music industry shape your storytelling? What made it unique? Help you create your own unique type of storytelling?
Well, I guess the music industry, what it helped to do was, to do the underlying plot of the story was that was the life that she lived, was on tour. The story also has that, you have like this found family when you're on tour because you're going from
Yeah,
city to city and you're the only stability are the group that you're with, and not just the artists, but the people in the background, the lighting, the roadies, the road managers, they all form a family. So that was part of what I wanted to show in this book was how she dealt with things, what her support system was, even though, they didn't know what she was doing, but, they would just be her backup no matter what problems she might get into, because that's what you do as a family.
yeah. So the entertainment industry and covert spy thrillers do not usually mix. There's a very unlikely mix. So what research went into making spy notes feel authentic?
Well, I guess part of it, I mean, I take from, like I said, real life from the music business side. The other
Mhm.
part, I try to use some historical pieces. I mean, I did use the island of Barbados. That was the start of the reason that she even, becomes a spy. But I also used some of the historical parts of Barbados. There's a part that I mentioned about the slave route that was used for, for the transportation of
Obviously.
drugs. And there was a slave route that was from Barbados to South Carolina, was a big slave route. There's that we're transporting slaves back and forth because Barbados at the time, and this is what maybe, I mean, the 1500s, 1600s, was one of the richest countries in the world because of the sugar trade, and sugar was very valuable at that time. So Barbados could not even feed themselves because they used almost all the land for the sugar plantation. So there was a transportation of food also between South Carolina and Barbados. So I use that history to portray part of what the book has.
Okay. So, as a debut novelist, what has been the most surprising part of your publishing journey, and what advice would you give aspiring writers?
One of the things I think that writers today have to realize, it's not all just about writing. Writing is just the only part of the book. Whether you're traditionally published, which means, with the five big publishers, or you're self-publishing, you have to know the marketing part of it. That is just as important, or even more so important, than the writing part. The writing part you can always get through, your craft, and you should also try as much to be part of the writing community. The writing community is very generous. I've had a lot of help and advice from writers who've been writing loads of books, and they're very successful. And these are self-published. I'm not even talking traditional, and they're very helpful. And I think that's important once you decide that you want to write, to get to be part of that community.
Yeah, mentorship is really, really important. So let's say diversity in the spy genre, we know we're still evolving. There are rarely a lot of Black female protagonists out there. So how important was it for you to create a Black female protagonist in a space where representation has been really limited?
That was very important. In fact, that was one of the other inspirations for the book, because I love James Bond movies. I love Ian Fleming.
Yeah.
I love the glamour of it, the different cities that he goes to, the gadgets. So, and every time I
Yeah.
watched it, I always thought, why don't we have a Black woman? I didn't even think a Black man. I'm thinking a Black woman as a spy that could be just as glamorous and go to those different places. So that was very important, because I really would love to be the Black female Ian Fleming, just writing a whole bunch of James Bond is Johnny Harrington books.
Yeah, with the cool gadgets. I would
Exactly.
really love
But
to see that.
she doesn't really have cool gadgets, because
No.
maybe later on, because you remember James Bond, he's 007, he's a licensed trained assassin. She's
Yes.
just a regular person that gets pulled in. Now,
True.
later on, I mean, I have my second book that I'm writing, she might have, to know some, maybe get some cool gadgets.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. So, okay, let's just ask, what's next for you? Can I really just expect more of the espionage thrillers, like you were saying? And
Definitely.
do you think you'll venture out into other genres of?
Well, I mean, I'm already writing on my second book, which she's going to go on this another tour and be pulled in to this billionaires tour. So there'll be a billionaire in there. So that's going to be exciting, and have a lot of more political intrigue on that one. I started it already, and it's so funny that some of it, even though I started it like 2 years ago, is very relatable to what's going on in the political system today. But yes, as far as another genre, yes, I already have an idea. I would love, my next genre I'm going to do is cozy mystery, because I have a cozy mystery idea that I want to set on, of course, the island of Barbados. So almost like, I don't know if you know, there's a series, Death in Paradise, which is really like a cozy
Mm.
mystery that's based on a West Indian island. So I was, and they made up the West Indian. I mean, it's actually on the island, but it's part of the French West Indies, but that's not what they're calling it. They actually made up the name of an island. But I definitely want to do mine on the island of Barbados. So I already have characters in my head and everything that I want to do with that one.
Yeah, I do look forward to reading that. So, okay, please complete the following statements. I'm going to read 5 statements and I'll need you to help me complete them. So the
Okay.
first one, storytelling for me is a way to.
To create my own worlds and control my own worlds.
Yeah, I like that. So, okay, the second one, the moment I knew I wanted to be a writer was when.
When I saw the stories that were not being told that I think should be told.
Okay. Number 3, if I could give one piece of advice to aspiring authors, it would be.
Read as much as possible in the genre that you write, because you automatically get the rhythm and the pace by reading when then you start writing.
Yeah. Okay. So the best stories are the ones that.
The ones that are authentic to that writer, to how that writer feels, and the world that that writer wants to create.
So what excites you the most about the future of storytelling?
The most exciting, I think, is that the gatekeepers, a lot of the gatekeepers are gone, so that you can write your story and get it out there. Because especially for people of color, especially Black women, Black men, they had gatekeepers, and they were their agents and their publishers, and what is considered a good story is so subjective, and it's subjective to the world that you live in and the people you surround yourself. So if your experience and your world experience is not that of somebody of a whole different culture, you might not relate to that story. But there could be thousands, millions of people who would relate to that story, but because you're the gatekeeper in publishing, it's never heard. But now we don't have to worry about that. We can get our stories out to the people who we know are waiting for those stories.
Yeah, I do. I really enjoy this interview. I just want to say thank you very much for joining us here today on Meet the Author. I look forward to receiving a book
Definitely.
because I do want to read it. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for everyone watching today. This was Meet the Author on Rolling Out. Bye-bye.
Hi, thank you.